Hello, good evening. My name is Springfield Johnny, aka Jon Presco, and this is the Authentic Being Show. Yay! So, before we get started, I want to introduce my grandson, the scholar here. He graduated from kindergarten, and he's got a lot of my mother's features, the cheeks, bones, and the mouth. He's got Rosemary's mouth, you know. My daughter's people, they don't want to see this, They don't want to see that, my daughter looks like me and my grandson looks like my mother. Yeah, because I'm an alien being to them, I'm not part of their brood. I don't have the scent of the Hanson. Anyway, we'll get into this because I haven't seen my grandson for 2.5 years. My daughter took him, gave him over to a tea party, crazy, drunken retard. There was a bar in the house, but we'll get into that. We're just going to get that on film. It's some kind of time capsule to lead to my grandson when he gets older and he actually knows that he has, a grandfather, that born his, helped give life to his mother, my daughter, because they don't have that concept. I didn't meet my daughter until she was 16, so it's been, like bonding with a daughter from another planet. But it hasn't been as much fun as I had with bonding with my daughter, Elfine. See, I finally, realized that that's what I was doing in my novel, Elfine. I didn't have any children, so I created one. Born her from my imagination and brought her to Earth. I spawned her on another planet as Ivan, this Russian diplomat who went with Michael, a CIA agent and very powerful American. And he was an astronaut, and Ivan was an astronaut, and they went to Florida, and they had an affair with the same woman. And that's how Elfine was conceived. And she's come to visit Ivan when she's 16 on Earth. And he's got this old Victoria farm out there outside Salinas. He's got to grow some lettuce. He loves John Steinbeck, watches East of Eden, and Grapes of Wrath. That's his favorite movie, Grapes of Wrath. He loves that. So Elfine comes to Earth by herself. Her mother puts her on a spaceship, and Ivan goes down to the space station with his old red 1939 Ford pickup truck and picks her up, sees her for the first time, and he's concerned. The mother isn't here. He doesn't know what to do. He's gotten on a little bit in years, and getting gray and stuff. And see, Ivan meets John. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that. I didn't find out till 20 years later or something like that. I don't know that Ivan met John. I think my counselor, my therapist, wanted that. I had a therapist that had me do a genealogy. She said, I want a genealogy so I can follow these people you're talking about. I said, genealogy, they don't matter. They don't mean anything, It was the same attitude towards psychic readings, So I came in there next week, and she says, have you got your genealogy done? And I says, no. Can't we go on without it? She fired me. Right there, I can't work with you. Get out. So So, in creating Elfine, I got a 2-year-old daughter out there, Heather, and I realized afterwards that I was psychically bonding with her, though we never met. And that's strange. That's a very strange thing to do. So my novels were being dictated by the entity who roams the planet. You know, it comes to age planets that are in dire distress. You know, and here I am, you know, at the core of the hippies that are trying, you know, part of the peace movement. We're ingesting, you know, LSD and hope we can find a dimension that'll end the war. End the war in Vietnam and end the Cold War and everything else. This is why we took it. We didn't take it to have orgies and have a good time and run around and go, ooh, I feel goofy. My mind's all goofy. That's what was going on. We're going to have a serious talk about the peace movement that we look for by ingesting LSD. I mean, a serious talk. But it's so hard to do that. One, because you don't have any ground platform to build that on, because it's a whole different reality. It's mind-altering reality. And you had everybody against you trying to destroy you. You know, very powerful forces, the CIA, the FBI, the Christian right, you name it. You know, all the veterans, and, you know, everybody wanted to destroy the hippie and the peace movement. And we're trying to build this fragile geodesic dome so we can survive and keep our experiment alive. And, you know, why not? You know, what if it works? We're not hurting anybody. Well, some of us flipped out. Art Linkletter's son jumped off a roof on LSD, but look at all, you know, all the 50,000 peers of mine that died in Vietnam. A lot of them came back with PSD and damage for forever. And they became alcoholics, and they damaged their families, and they hurt their children and other people's children, and, you know. So Ivan picks up Elfine at the spaceport, and he brings her home, and it happens to be Saturday, and he puts cartoons on the TV. You know, it's the best babysitter ever. TV cartoon Saturday morning, and also she's just like, you know, her big eyes, her big cat eyes, and she's just incredibly fascinated with this cartoon show. Little pigs, little ducks running around, you know, little mice, things doing things, you know. Some of it's not very nice to each other, you know. And she's just like right up there. She's sitting right in front of the TV, and just glued to it. Ivan's going, yeah. So far, so good, you know. And you know, it's like 3 hours have gone by. It's like cartoons all day, all morning, you know. And then she's really into this one cartoon with these bears and these ducks. And Ivan's not really watched any cartoons before. And this bear and this duck reminded him of, you know, his youth, you know, in Russia, you know, the Russian bear and the ducks, you know. It really got his, you know, jolly. You know, and all of a sudden, Elfine just turns on him, you know, and she's got tears, you know, turns her, you know, when she hears him roaring with laughter, she's got tears streaming down her face, you know, and she's just glaring at her father, and she goes, you know, and hisses at him, you know. And then back to her show, you know, Ivan goes, oh God, you know, my daughter just hissed at me, and she's crying, you know. And this was a half-hour show, and you know, and within another 10 minutes, she's on the floor in a ball, just crying around, you know. It's supposed to be a happy, fun cartoon thing, and she's just bawling her eyes out. She's rolling in pain and anguish, and, you know. Ivan doesn't know what to do, you know. So, you know, so he waits till the cartoon's over, and you know, he says, I think you've had enough cartoons. You know, and he goes up there, turns it off, and tries to embrace Elf, and has her come and sit on his knee, and he's trying to find out, what's going on? Why are you crying when other children would be laughing? And she says, I can see him. She said, who? The man, the poor man that made the cartoons, that drew the cartoons. I can see him. I could feel his pain. He's in such anguish, Daddy. He's so lonely. What do you mean he's lonely? He's got nobody. And then she goes on to describe this nerd. This poor guy with big smelly feet and can't get a date because he's constipated all the time, and he's farting and flagellating, and he's got acne on his face, and his parents can't stand him. He was adopted or something like that. He's just so utterly disconnected with the real world. See, but through his cartoons, he's gone into the cartoons world to escape, where he's made these wonderful, famous, funny bears and ducks, and and then Elfine's telling that he's so constipated that he sits on the toilet. He has his drawing board by the toilet where he works on his ducks, because he'd be there for hours because he can't defecate. There. And he gets it. He gets that. He says, I'm going to call her mother. Find out what's going on. See, but she's picked this up, 10 trillion miles away. She's, she sends a space message to Ivan, because somehow they're telepathic beings, and she's, she says, to Ivan, I'm afraid our daughter is an empath. Ivan has a clue what that is. She's sympathetic. Well, we all are to a degree. But she's, sympathetic to the max. I mean, she just can't turn herself off. She can, literally go into the cartoon and feel the brushes and the pen making the characters, and then she can see the hand, doing the cartoons, and see the man's face, and then go into his mind, to feel his anguish, his loneliness, his desperation, that if he could make these ducks and do funny, happy things, that he would go kill himself. He's on the verge of, suicide. But what cartoonist is it? What writer, cartoonist, humorist, isn't just like this guy, So, and this comes from the Flinians' ability to hunt their prey. They don't have big ears, not even small ears, like a cheetah. They don't hear their prey. They're not sensitive. They're not smell. It's psychic. They psych out. They can psych out where their prey is. And their prey, through evolution, are very, very good at putting up blocks, psychic blocks, invisible psychic shields, so they can't be located so easily. And there was a big crisis about that, because the Flinians were evolving faster than their prey. And there was a chance that they would catch, deplete their food source. And they tried fast foods, hamburger, stuff like that. But that was a disaster, because the sixth sense started to die out, and they got fat, and sleek, and they needed that adrenaline, and the Flinian chemical, it's in the Flinian kiss. See, and that's only developed when you're, doing psychic stealth stuff, so they realized that they had to genetically alter their food source, their prey, so they can evolve, catch up with the evolution of the Funians. And so they had a planet-wide committee of the hiders, they were called. The hiders and the seekers. And they came up with a genetic solution, and they started injecting that into the animals, so when they mate, they would have, they would be able to genetically keep up, not be caught. So this is why Elfine could go in, see, cartoon on a TV screen, and go in there and find the hiding prey or meal. To her, when she first saw the TV and the cartoon, it was like, wait a minute, this is too obvious. Is that my meal? In there. See, they had a problem with that, and they had to bring some genetically manufactured food for Elfine to eat, and we'll get into that because that was actually I got stuck on that. This book is still being written, So, Ivan would have to, come up and turn the TV off and say, well, why don't you go? That's enough, Elfine. That's enough empathy. See, human beings had a lot of empathy, and the Funians don't. So she was a genetic mixture of that. And instead of finding prey, she was finding great empathy for things and everything. And especially humans. She's very, she felt a lot of compassion for them. See? And especially the ones that were suffering. They were disenfranchised and disconnected and alone. My therapist was going, if she knew, if we'd gotten that far to where I talk about Elfine, she'd go, this guy can really open up and talk about his shit. He's really getting his shit out, through Elfine, So, okay, Elfine, that's enough of that, Everyone dry your tears. Now you go outside and play. And she said, okay, Daddy, I'll go out and play. And she goes out and play, and she's got this, something like, 2,000 acres. It's a pretty big place. And, he tried keeping up her and playing with her, but, she played, it's a cat running around the house to get exercise. She'd run around the 2,000 acres and, there's Ivan trying to keep up. He says, you go play by yourself, And so one day she just did come in. It was getting dark, and he said, I better go out and find my daughter. The beautiful sunset with a crescent moon star, and he starts looking for her. And she had this favorite oak tree that grew out there on his property, and he's walking out there, whistling, he Rachmaninoff piano concertos, dum 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 dum. Is that, I don't know, is that Rachmaninoff? So all of a sudden he gets within 50 yards and sees Elfine up on the hill, the golden grass, underneath the tree, and the marmalade sky behind her, and she's laughing. He hears her laughing, and she's being very animated. And about 50 yards away, she notices that her father's there. No, she goes, "Run, Daddy, run! What? Run to the house!" Oh my God, what's going on? And she's right after him, screaming, "Run, run!" He throws open the screen door and gets in the house, and here comes Elfine right after him, and she slams the door, she's that was a close one, you know. You know, he almost got you, you know. Who? You know, who almost got me, Elfine? You know, my friend. You know, my friend. Didn't like you, didn't like your vibrations. You're really upsetting him, you know, Daddy, you know. You know, and you know, so I was going, okay, you know. You know, and he, you know, he's scared, you know, his heart's still pounding, you know, her eyes are, you know, wide, you know, she's exhilarated because, you know, she's concerned, you know, and she tries to tell Ivan, you know, he starts asking her, says, well, he starts to ask the question, well, this friend of yours, didn't you? No, Daddy, I didn't make him up. He's real. He exists. You know? Well, you know, and he's like, you know, well, started to say, well, is it, maybe you want to hurt me? You know? You know, he's trying to apply his Freudian stuff, you know, this is, you know, fratricide here, the desire to kill the father, you know, or something, you know. And you know, and also she just anticipates all that questioning, you know, that question, you know, and she just glares at him and she, you'll never understand me and my friends, you know, and she goes into her room, whoosh, the door slam, you know. You know, there it is. You'll never understand me and my friends, you know. So, Ivan didn't go out there and ever again as she was playing, you know. And then one day she comes in, she says, your ground's too hard out there. He says, too hard? Yeah, it isn't like the ground in Florida. You mean sand, right? And yes, I guess, is that what it is? You know, she says, can you replicate the ground in Florida? You know, so I filled his pickup truck with sand and made a little box for her, and he brought a pail and shovel. and he brings her out of the house to look at it. He says, no, that's not big enough, you know. You know, how big do you want this thing, you know? She marks off 100 yards that way and 100 yards that way, and she, you know, like that, you know. So he calls up his buddy down at the gravel and sand yard, and he brings, you know, 6 truckloads of sand in there, and recreates her planet. And, you know, it brings out a couple of pails for her friends to play, you know, shovels to play, you know, with her friends, her imaginary friends or whatever, you know, in the sandbox. And well, that's when he notices little mounds, you know, and the smell. And, you know, says, Elfine, you know, did I teach you to use the potty? You know, why aren't we, you know, putting our little doo-doos in the toilet? And of course, he gets a glare, another glare, because Elfine hated the toilet. She hated it with a passion because when she came out, you know, when Ivan told her about what it is, you know, what it's for, because she found it there. And curiosity killed the cat. She walked into, and he's showing her the house. She said, what is this, you know? And he says, well, you poo-poo in that. You know, you pull down your pants and you put your poo-poo down in there, you know? And she thought that was just incredible, you know? It's kind of like an altar, you know, to honor the doo-doo, you know? So the first time she used it, she walks out of the bathroom, leaves the door open, and, you know, and Ivan just, oh, jeez, Elfine, oh, what is that smell? You know, he said, I do, Dada. You know, she runs into the bathroom and hits the plunger, you know, whoosh, you know, and she just starts screeching, you know, like you know, what have you done? What have you done? You rude, cruel man, you know, and then she falls to her knees, and and she's, crying for her doo-doo because she's empathic towards her. She's got her her DNA. It's part of her. It's something that came out of her. And also her father comes in, down it goes into this ugly pipe, and God knows where it's going. It's like he flushed her down. See, this is an empath. See, this is what, a play on the whole, thing that we're all waiting for Jesus. The hippies were all looking for the hippie Messiah. That he's got to be able to do like 20,000 mics of LSD. And this stuff was going on. We'll talk about that. The hippie Jesus acid. And so, yeah, okay, God, it's a female Messiah. See, I'm working on this in 1986. The very same year that Holy Blood, Holy Grail came out, I'm writing this novel about this female, a Messiah that comes from another planet. She's, mixed with human and alien bloodline, and she's a great empath. So this gives me chills. So when I read Holy Blood, Holy Grail in 1988, I think, I said, wow, look at this, It reminded me of my Elfine, and I got on these Yahoo groups, and, there's all these people, the early pathfinders into the Holy Grail stuff, and the Templars, and the Masons and stuff, and I'm talking about Elfine. Yeah, right. Ha 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 ha. I get the twirling of the finger. Yeah, right, John. You wrote, so what? You wrote this, this cartoon book or something like that. About this, female Felinian cat woman from space that saves Earth. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, right. So, I mean, so it goes, and so it goes. All right, well, we'll put a close on this. This will be the third video I made today, and it's, I can only say that, God bless you, Amy Oles, who's, like my sister, and now she's Elfine, for real. One of Elfine's playmates. All right, have a good one. And fly safely out there. Look out for those comets.